Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Monday, April 8th. Today is the 185th day since October 7th. The most significant news to let you know about in the last 48 hours is that Israel has removed the majority of troops out of Gaza. When I first heard that news, I was like, what? It's quite significant. The ground troops have left Gaza, essentially all but two brigades. I don't really know the size of I'm pretty sure brigades is the right term. The Israeli military news has said reduced in the number of troops. Some have said all but a few. Only a fraction of the soldiers it deployed to the enclave earlier in the war remain. What does this mean? Essentially, it means a couple of things. One, we have heard from Netanyahu and the Israeli government that the primary reason for that is because a number of the Israeli troops are reservists and they need a break. And so that is one of the primary reasons. We have heard Israel is still going to pursue its intentions with the full on-ground invasion in Rafah. And there's another reason. Not only do the reservists need a break, but things are escalating on other fronts in terms of Israel's border in the north with Lebanon. And so it could be a tactical issue where troops are being moved or relocated to the north of Israel. That has to do with the attack that Israel carried out against the Iranian embassy in Syria and Damascus. And so I'll be talking about that in a minute. White House spokesperson John Kirby said that Israel's withdrawal is about the rest and refit for those troops who have now been on the ground for 4 months. And it does not indicate preparations for a new operation. Democrat Senator Chris Coons told Fox News that the pullout looked like a tactical decision in the face of a threat of a real attack in the north from Hezbollah or a direct attack from Iran. The reasoning for this, according to Netanyahu, has been that the troops need rest, and it does not indicate an end in the fighting. Despite the drawdown of troops, the military has promised a future mission in Rafah in southern Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces also reported that at least 12,000 Hamas militants have been killed in Gaza since the war began. Now, at the beginning of the war, the number of total Hamas members was only 20 or 30,000. So it also depends on who you count as Hamas. Some of the numbers of who Israel counts as Hamas is really anyone in a certain region or area. And so the numbers that Hamas has said are killed and Israel has said are killed are vastly different. Hostages and ceasefire negotiations, White House National Security spokesperson Kirby said that following the CIA chief Burns's visit to Cairo over the weekend, there is a new proposal on the table. There is a release deal. It has been presented to Hamas. A foreign diplomat familiar with the negotiations between Israel and Hamas told Haaretz that there's cautious optimism regarding the possibility of an agreement. We will know by tomorrow whether or not the deal can be advanced. Israeli sources involved refused to confirm or deny whether or not any progress had been made. Egyptian sources and the Egyptian state-affiliated Al Qahira News reported that all parties have agreed on the basic points and that the deal is progressing, but a senior Hamas source told Al Jazeera that there's no progress in the negotiations. Israel rejected all of Hamas's demands, according to that source. And a source in the Palestinian factions told the Hezbollah-affiliated Al Ma'adin network that Israel's obstinacy is preventing the deal. Al Jazeera later reported that a senior Hamas official said Israel's offer does not include a ceasefire or a withdrawal, which you may recall Hamas has been saying two things that they will not negotiate on. One is that any ceasefire temporary has to ultimately lead to a permanent ceasefire, and that also people have to be allowed to return to North Gaza and to return to their homes. And the other thing that this official said is that Israel is proposing to put displaced Gazans in temporary shelters and not back in their original homes. So we'll stand by to hear what happens with that in coming days. The families of Israeli hostages criticized far-right coalition ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich for, quote, forgetting what it means to be Jewish and the value of redeeming captives. It is inconceivable that on the eve of the holiday of freedom, political coalition interests could make Netanyahu thwart a deal once again, end quote. They're referring to what Israel calls as their Independence Day or what Palestinians call Nakba Day. Opposition leader Yair Lapid says his party is willing to give Netanyahu the necessary Knesset votes to back a hostage deal if his far-right coalition partners refuse to back it. In terms of Israel and Iran, Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdel-Hayyan, forgive my pronunciation, said that in coming days, things will be hard for Israel. He claimed that the Al-Quds force commander for Lebanon and Syria, Mohammed Reza Zahedi, who was killed using U.S. rockets and drones. And he also said that the U.S. gave the green light. You may recall that after the attack on the Iranian embassy, I've heard it called a consulate or an embassy in Damascus, in Syria. The U.S. said they had nothing to do with it. Yet over the weekend, not only Israeli, but U.S. assets throughout the Middle East were on high alert for possible Iranian retaliation for the attack of the Zahedi's death and for the attack on the Iranian embassy in Damascus. The Foreign Press Association's board in relation to Gaza called on Israel to grant the international media expanded and unfettered access to Gaza, noting that 6 months is far too long to have been barred. The independent press has been barred from Gaza and that this is unprecedented. So that is in Gaza. Israel is also yet to provide a satisfactory explanation for the death of the 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers, according to the Australian Prime Minister Albanese. Australia appointed a senior former military official to study Israel's inquiry into the incident. And an Israeli official confirmed to the Associated Press that Israel, this is deeply disconcerting, Israel is purchasing 40,000 tents to prepare for the evacuation. Now, Haaretz reported to prepare for the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, they're purchasing 40,000 tents, which of course is because there will be, whole families in individual tents from South Gaza and the city of Rafah. So that's deeply disconcerting. The death toll, according to recent numbers, is 33,207 Palestinians killed in Gaza. Those injured is at 75,933. Reports from relief agencies indicate that 300 humanitarian trucks were allowed into Gaza in the past day. You'll recall prior to October 7th, the average was 500 trucks per day. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken met with opposition leader Lapid at the State Department, and they discussed possible solutions for Gaza, including release of hostages. Democratic Senator Tim Kaine called on President Biden to halt the transfer of offensive weapons to Israel following the killing of those 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers. And House Republicans will introduce a resolution later this week opposing efforts to place one-sided pressure on Israel in respect to Gaza. In Israel, far-right Minister Smotrich sent an urgent letter to Netanyahu calling on him to convene the security cabinet, stressing that it is the only forum authorized to make crucial decisions during war, in reference to the Israeli Defense Forces withdrawal yesterday from the southern Gaza Strip and from South Gaza, and amid reports of progress in ceasefire talks. The War and Security Cabinets in Israel are set to convene tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Far-right National Security Minister Ben Gvir said if Netanyahu decides to end the war without an expansive assault in Rafah, he won't have the mandate to serve as prime minister, essentially threatening that they will leave the coalition if Netanyahu seeks to end the war. Far-right lawmaker Sanhar Malek said in an interview with Knesset TV that within government ministries, there's intensive work behind the scenes to advance settlement in the Gaza Strip, meaning Israeli settlements to be reestablished in Gaza. Again, deeply disconcerting. Amir Ahas, a progressive columnist for Haaretz, said this in the past day, let's say it for the millionth time, the pattern established for decades shows that the Israeli authorities who do not prevent, arrest, detain, prosecute, or punish anyone want the settler attacks on Palestinians to continue. FYI, President Joe Biden, their guns are US made, and the goal is for these weapons to terrorize people. In the West Bank, the IDF has said that Israeli soldiers shot and killed a Palestinian woman who tried to stab them at a checkpoint in the northern West Bank. In Lebanon, the Israeli Defense Forces said that a strike was carried out overnight into Monday in South Lebanon, and it killed a senior Hezbollah commander. So that was also a report from the IDF. Things continue in terms of hostilities at the northern border with Israel and South Lebanon. And the EU has said that its naval mission to the Red Sea repelled 11 attacks by Yemen's Houthis. So that's how things have started out this week in Gaza. For us at Churches for Middle East Peace, please pray for us. This week, we are commemorating our 40th anniversary, and people are coming into town from more than 30 states all over the U.S. to talk to their members of Congress, to call for a comprehensive ceasefire and all of our other asks, to call for enough killing, and violence. So please pray for us as we continue to work together toward peace.